I'm studying Tibetan and its translation for a couple of reasons. I am a Dharma practitioner, and my teacher thought it would be a very good idea to practice in Tibetan and study the Tibetan language at the same time. So I'm doing that. And I found that it enhances my understanding of what I'm practicing because I'm reciting so much in Tibetan. So primarily those twofold reasons. And I love it. I love this terribly complicated, convoluted language, and figuring it out is really wonderful. The Dharma Farm has a couple of unique characteristics. Most of my Tibetan classes have been online, and they've either been canned online courses or a one-on-one kind of setup, um, which was good, but had a very narrow focus, like learning sadhanas and sadhana language. That was fine. One of my Tibetan teachers, David Curtis, when I went as far as I could with his classes, suggested you might want to look into Craig Preston. And I didn't know that name. He said, I believe he's at Maitripa or in Oregon somewhere or whatever. So I looked up Craig and got the Dharma Farm. And it looked like they had a pretty intensive online live Tibetan. And that was very, very interesting to me. So I signed up. I stay with learning Tibetan primarily because of the challenge. It is vast. It seems to be unending. Um, like I said, it enhances my understanding what I've already studied in English. So now I'm getting it in stereo, Tibetan language of my teacher and in English. And Craig and Jules are both terrific teachers with extensive experience behind them. They've been doing this for 40 plus years. It's an opportunity I don't think I'm going to see again. So it's definitely enhanced my practice by giving me a larger vocabulary, Dharma vocabulary, and a greater understanding and appreciation for what is said in Tibetan. But particularly context, I've learned how important context is in the Tibetan language, that there is no one translation for a sentence. It could be translated many different ways, and that makes this a very rich language. There are several ways of approaching the meaning of a sentence. And so I always want to know more, and I never take a translation as that's it. That's what it means. That's the end of it. You're always learning more. I think it applies to a lot of different people. So Craig has taught beginners. Um, Jules has translated for advanced practitioners and lamas and brings a very rich vocabulary from doing that to the table. Someone who has already learned the alphabet would really benefit. And this, I think, is the next step in their learning process if they really want to learn Tibetan. And I would even say linguists, people who are interested in this language, very difficult languages, because Craig will get into the structure of the language and where things come from. Jules knows some of the Sanskrit behind Tibetan words. So I think there's a whole range of people from beginners to intermediate to advanced practitioners, linguists. I would encourage them in the study of Tibetan, especially if they are Dharma practitioners, because that has been my experience. It is hands-on. You have access to two very gifted well-trained teachers, and you're going to hear it in your own language. So this is probably the best situation for an English speaker that's available today, and it's live. Um, and you're going through actual texts that are important to the Tibetan tradition. So I would say be patient with the Tibetan language, but the rewards are great if you stay with it. I'm trying to convey that, hey, this is fun. This is the most fun I've had in a long time, and finally I get to do it, so this is a blast. I hope I conveyed that.